Well, hi, sports fans. Tonight we're going to go off on a little bit of a tangent. As you know, we have our Panzer IV here, and this is a Panzer IV-E, but that doesn't matter right now because we're not going to be talking about Panzers tonight. But we are going to be talking about the derivatives of the Panzer IV, which there were several. And so we're going to focus on, I think, how do you say them? The Flakpanzers.
All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is the Flakpanzer IV Wirblewind. This was the first Flakpanzer that the Germans came up with. They viewed it as a stopgap measure until they came up with other Flakpanzers. The reason we highlighted the Panzer IV is because all of these Flakpanzers would be built off of that Panzer IV chassis. The Germans decided they needed a Flakpanzer because the Allied Air Forces got better. The U.S. joined the war. The British Air Force was more formidable, and so the Germans determined that they needed a self-propelled anti-aircraft tank, or just something called anti-aircraft. So they came up with designs for the Flakpanzer Wirblewind. It would be built by Deutsche Eisenwerk. It was produced from 44 to 45. 240 of them were built. It weighed 24 tons, had a crew of 6, and its main armament would be a 2-centimeter, and this one's an interesting word that I hadn't heard before, Flakpanzer 38. 2-centimeter Flakpanzer 38.
All right.
And that's what you see here in this model.
All right, this is the first time I've ever seen one of these. So I'm just oohing and ahhing if I look like I'm not paying attention to it, but this is really cool. So it's kind of like barn doors that would fold down, like a hay wagon kind of.
Yeah.
Look at that. Boy, that's an ugly sucker. How did I see that come down the road?
And I think these back panels are to support it at angle. So.
Oh, okay. So they'd come down. I think you're right.
They support it at that angle because those panels have 3 different settings. They would be all the way down, supported with those things, those little panels, so that they could use those guns against infantry or other vehicles. And then they would disassemble the guns, lay them down flat, and then close the top off. And that would be the
travel mode.
Travel mode, yep.
All right, so this is really cool. Look how this can fold down. So they fold the sides down, and then this would be on I assume on a, yeah, I don't want to turn it too hard, it's a little stiff. Then it'd also go up and down, like that. Oh, look, there's a little handle there that does it. Oh, how cute. And anyway, see that handle? Mm-hmm. So you could go up and down with the handle. And then if you wanted to put it up on an angle, you could use it to shoot the guns, but it would supply some protection from like infantry fire or something that way.
Right.
So, but basically this would probably be used out, not right on the battlefield, but on the outskirts of the battlefield, so they could shoot at incoming aircraft. Would that be?
Yep. What you'll notice though is that it has an open top. And we've seen with some other tanks that they would try to move away from that. The reason that it has an open top is because with all of these anti-aircraft guns, they'd move through so much ammo so quickly that a lot of smoke would be generated. So if they had a closed top, they'd get smoked out. You'll notice this on this one as well as the one we cover next, that it's an open top, and that wouldn't get resolved until a prototype at the end of the war, which we'll talk about later.
Okay. So anyway, so this is the
Flakpanzer IV Wirblewind.
I knew what it was kind of called. I just didn't want to have to say it. But anyway, so this is a quad. What's the size of the armament?
2 centimeter.
2 centimeters. So these are a pretty good sized gun. That'd be like 3/4 of an inch, or similar to the 50 caliber. Here is an airplane, same scale, 32nd scale, and this is a an American P-47, which towards the war, these were the real workhorse of the American or the Allied Air Force at the end of the war. And the reason I thought that it was important is because they started putting a lot of armor on these airplanes. These airplanes were basically tanks in the sky. They put up to half-inch armor underneath the cockpit and the gas tanks in the wing tanks and things. And so that being the case, the smaller caliber machine guns that they would use, or the anti-aircraft guns that the Germans were using, were being basically ineffective against these heavily armored planes that would be coming in at like 350, 400 miles an hour. And so this was the enemy of the Flakpanzers.
All right, so the next one he's going to open up is called the Wirblewind.
The Wirblewind.
This would be the first
Wirblewind.
Official, not stopgap measure to deal with the aircraft. You'll notice once again it's using that same 2-centimeter gun. This is still early enough in the war that they have not moved away from that yet, but it would be while this is deployed that they really discover how ineffective that gun would be. So you'll notice that the turret has a lot more armor. It comes up all the way, and then it has slots at the front that allow the guns to descend while still giving the armor to those in the cockpit or
the turret.
The turret. So this is the Wirblewind. They made between 87 to 105. It was converted from the Panzer IV chassis by Ostbauwerk. It weighed 22 tons. Had a crew of 5. So now we're back down to 5 instead of 6. Had that same 12-cylinder Maybach engine that the Panzer IV would have. And just an idea of how quickly it would fire. In that 2-centimeter gun, the capacity that it had was 3,200 rounds, or 3,200 rounds they would store in this tank just to equip it correctly.
Now, notice on this one, the whole turret would move, and then the guns would go up and down. I don't know if you can see that with my big fat hands in the way, but you can see how the turrets would turn, and then the guns could go up and down as if it was mounted properly.
Yep.
And so it was actually a lot more efficient. And they would have to these would have to probably turn real fast. All right, but anyway, so I think that's really interesting. So this is a lot more sophisticated, and like you said, those would have to really be able to turn. To imagine following a plane across the horizon or something, those would have to really have some dynamics to and mechanicisms to do it. And then, so here's the earlier version. Notice it's the same gun, almost exactly, except for it's just mounted. And this is mounted in the thing. And look at the more protection this would add for this one for them too. So, and they all are built off the Panzer IV chassis. So they'd probably take a blank chassis, probably a turretless chassis, and they'd send it over to whoever the manufacturers were, like the coach builders, and one outfit would build this one at the first of the war, and then when they got a little bit further in the war, then another outfit built that. And how many of these did they build? 300?
It was 240.
240, and how many of the Wunderwinder?
The Wirblefinns?
The Wirblefinns.
They made between 87 and 105.
Okay, so they actually made more of the drop-down side than the other one. But that was in 1945, though.
44.
44. Okay, so, all right. Well, so there wasn't a lot of those built in comparison to a lot of other tanks, but still, they probably, you still wouldn't want to be in a plane driving down. And then also, they could still use them for infantry support, which would be pretty badass. You're sitting there having those 4 2-cylinder machine guns just pouring lead out at you. If you're an infantry, you wouldn't like that much. So
yeah, I wanted to mention two others we don't have models of, but kind of just to show the development tree here.
Okay.
We started here with the Wirblewind. It has that 2-centimeter gun. The Wirblewind would also have that 2-centimeter gun. Then the Ostwind, which is
the Ostwind.
Ostwind, yeah.
Ostwind, okay.
Would have a turret very similar to this one, except it would have one gun with a 3.7-centimeter gun.
Oh, okay, so almost twice as big.
Yeah, so they went up just to deal with those planes that you were talking about in the armor there.
Yeah.
And its turret would be very similar, still open top. It would be hexagonal instead of octagonal. But same chassis, very similar to the Wirblewind, just with the bigger gun. And then the last one never actually made it to production. It was called the Kugelblitz.
The Kugelblitz?
Yes, and it finally had the closed top.
Oh, okay. And did it have the 3.72 gun in it?
Yeah, it actually had two of them.
Okay, so it was a kind of a bad, it was a throw out a lot of lead, that one then.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, well anyway, so I guess tonight's sponsor was Panzer IV.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
with their children of the
Mogelfagen
and the
Wirblewind.
So, okay. I just think this is interesting as heck, the way that they would take these tank chassis and build all these different things. You know, you're looking at the studs, you're looking at the mortars, you know, the 38Ts with the mortars and all that, mortars, and even down to the Herzog. You get a lot of these. I think it's really interesting, just the engineering that goes into these things, let alone the destructive power that they were. But all right, without further ado, subscribe, damn it. Bye. What's it called? The Wirblewind. The Wirblewind. Yeah, see, I'm a certified idiot. Huh. Okay. I'm also 70 years old.